Hello, and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, I am Disco Kitty, the Crappy Crafter. It's that time of the month again where we get to play with Sophie and Toffee boxes. The first one, of course, is the Elves box, which came with stuff that didn't fit in the box, so it was just in the envelope with the box. And, of course, the box. I can't wait to see what's in it. And then there's the Pixie box, the most beautifulest ever box ever in the entire history of beautiful boxes. Fight me, because I know it's the most beautiful. I've been around for a long time. Anyways, I can't wait to see what's in these boxes, so let's just get right into it. This one shows you the days of the weeks and will also hold the numbers in. There are the numbers for each day. This will hold everything all together. Let's get into the box itself. The pamphlet, it has everything that is in the box. And instructions. Oh, I can't believe there are instructions. Real instructions. I'm so excited about this. Measurements and everything. Dried flowers, 1:1 epoxy resin, squared hooks, glitter in the shape of letters, gold embellishments, 3 colors of pigment powders, the months and some holidays, and some fine glitter. Now for the slightly damaged Pixie box. The leaflet, it tells you what everything is inside. It makes those open back bezels look really big. They are not. 3 colors of pigment powders. 1 closed back bezel. Some earring hooks. Some earring straight pins, some pink gold leaf, stickers, glitter heart-shaped, embellishments, open back bezel tape, a small geometric mold, jump rings. This is, or it will be, a bottle of tiny tumbled stones. The open back bezels. A pair of earrings, or a mold for them. A coaster mold. A trinket dish mold, a geometric shapes mold, could use those for earrings, a small tray mold. Let's start with the simpler of the boxes. Let's go with the Pixie box. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to fill up the tiny mold with a little bit of UV resin so that there's some in the bottom, and then I'm gonna just fill it up with little stones and then top it up with more UV resin and more little stones and more UV resin until it's full. And this works pretty well. Oh yeah, you actually have to make sure the lid is open too. That's a good thing to know. Anyways, because the sides of this are so thin, it doesn't really have a lot of strength or sturdiness. So there will be a little bit of warping as it cures, and that's okay. It doesn't have to be perfect. And to cure that up, remember to cure at least 2 sides of it. At least 2 sides of it. That way the light gets in around all of the little stones. I think it came out pretty cute. You can see the sides are not flat, but I think they're cute anyways. Next up is the coaster mold. And we are going to use just a little bit of the orange powder that came in the box, put it in a little tiny cup, and we're going to just use one of these eye makeup applicators to just barely touch some of the powder onto the raised surfaces inside the mold. You want to knock off as much powder as you can because that stuff will fluff everywhere and get into all the places where you don't want it. I mean, it's going to a little bit anyways. It's not going to be perfect, but a little bit here and there you probably won't notice. But I think it works pretty well in the end. We're going to do this with UV resin because it doesn't come with resin. And we know that. The Pixie box never comes with resin. Mix it up with the blue that came in the box. And I think that this will work really well with the orange. It's more of a gold color when it's that thin, but I think it looks really good. Remember to pour from a height. They say it helps to get rid of bubbles. I don't know about that. Cure it up and remember to cure both sides. You have to cure the bottom as well as the top. Now we're just going to dome it off because there wasn't quite enough of the blue in there, so I'm just filling it up to top it up. Cure that up again. And now we'll take it out, and it really is lovely. I really like how that came out. It's very nice. And it's just big enough to fit my giant cup, and I can use it as a lid on my giant cup. That is pretty cool. Keep the bugs out. Alright, it's time to get into the calendar mold. Now this says to mix up 100 grams of resin twice. And if I were a thinking person, I would have just mixed up 200 grams of resin and just gone forward with it. However, I was following the instructions and I neglected to realize that they were going to put a layer of flowers in there. I'm not going to do that. I don't need to do that because I have decided to pigment the entire back section orange, which is one of the colors that came in the box, so I don't have to worry about that. So I'm going to mix this up really well, pour it in, make sure that I've gotten all of the little tiny spots where the posts are supposed to stick up and out so that you can add the guides as they were to keep the numbers in. And this is kind of where it starts to go downhill. I mean, it's easy enough to get the bubbles out. But I didn't realize just how skinny these posts were and how hard I should have worked to get them out. You'll see later. It's not going to end well. Trying to get all the bubbles out. Shaking it up good. Now I'm gonna pour on the second layer, as it were. The first layer has not cured yet. Blast off the bubbles, and then I'm going to take this downstairs and let it cure for a while. It's going to cure for like a day and a half because I had to work the next day. I'm going to use a Posca paint pen to paint on the numbers, and I should not have done it this way. I should have just painted in the numbers after I pulled them out of the mold, like I do with dice and everything else like that. This was not a good way to do it. Next, we're going to mix up some of the yellow, and we will make up some of the numbers. Now, this says to mix 50 grams to fill the numbers, but that's not gonna quite do it. It's going to actually leave 6 spaces empty. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to break out my Let's resin, which is a very similar resin, not put nearly enough mica powder in the tiny bit that I made so that these two are going to be lighter in color, really obvious once you put them together. And then I will cut out the months and we'll start making the month ones. Now there are only 2 spaces to do the months. And if you were going to use regular resin, that would mean that you could do 2 at a time. I mean, you don't really need to have all 12 months all at the same time, since it says it can only hold 6 at a time anyways. But I'm a completionist and I want them all done right now. So UV resin it is. Cure it up just like all the other UV resin. And then we will put the yellow on the back of it. This is UV resin as well, because like I will say later, I don't want to wait 6 days for these to all be done. I'm lazy and impatient. I want them done now. I mean, they work pretty well, except for the ones that have letters that are very tall and letters that go very deep, like September. September has a B and a P, and that space is not quite big enough for both. So I have to rip it out, clean it off. Such a waste of resin. And then I'm going to have to trim it. I actually have to trim part of the little flags off of the B and the P in order to make it fit. So when I'm done with this, I just go ahead and trim all of the other letters, or all of the other months, so that they will fit, and I won't have to fight with it, because I've already fought with this enough. And it's still just barely fit. But it'll do. It doesn't have to be perfect, right? Going back to the Let's Resin, because I am out of the stuff that Sophie and Toffee had sent me. We're going to use little tiny cup to pour into these, the brackets and the header. The header is what I'm doing now, and then the brackets are all filled up. Those will hold the numbers onto the board, make sure they don't just tip out forward. These will work fine. The square brackets, I have an issue with the square brackets. They don't fit the months. So I'm going to have to trim them. At the top of every hole, front and back, I'm going to have to trim them just a little bit so that they can fit around that tight corner. But we'll get to that later. For now, I'm just going to demold everything. Like I said, these work pretty well. The numbers work pretty well. The only thing that doesn't work pretty well is the big backer piece, because I'm very heavy-handed when I'm working on things, and it just doesn't go well. And there you can see I should have waited and just painted in the numbers afterwards, because they just don't look good. But that's on me. This is technically on me. I should have realized how tiny those were going to be and how hard they were going to be to get out nicely. But no, I just ripped the whole thing off, ripping out the vast majority of the posts. There's a couple still there. I don't know how they survived. Not that it matters, and you'll see why soon. Now it's time to try to put them on. Each of those yellow bars has 2 holes. Each of those slots has 2 posts. And guess what? They don't line up. They don't line up. That one's lined up, which means that one is not. There's a huge difference. And yes, it's bowed a little bit, but it didn't matter. They still didn't fit. Oh, it's so frustrating watching this again. So, snippy snippy, all of the posts are gone. And then we were supposed to use glue to hold them on anyways. We were supposed to put it into the hole or onto the post and then slide them together. But I guess we're just going to have to do it the old-fashioned way and just glue it straight on. Another issue with the squared hooks is they just keep spinning and spinning and spinning, and they're too big. Now, the mold was deeper than that piece is. It could have easily taken another 50 grams of resin. Easily. And look, they're also not in the right place. They're ever so slightly too far apart. And something that I should mention, one thing that you need to do is you have to be really careful when you put your films in, because 2 of my films are upside down. Yep, I put 2 of the films in upside down. And here I'm showing where I'm going to carve out the hole a little bit. At the top of the front and the back of each hole. Gotta do it until it fits. It doesn't really take much, honestly. It doesn't. But the fact that you have to do it is just aggravating. Now these posts, they don't actually stay where they're supposed to either. They're very, very loose in there. And now it's time to paint in the letters on the header. And I noticed while I was editing that this week starts on a Monday. It doesn't start on Sunday. I find that very intriguing because my work week at work starts on a Monday, not a Sunday. So that actually works for me. I really like that. So now we just have to line up and glue on the header, and it's basically done at that point. We'll just put it all together. I mean, it is super pretty, don't get me wrong. I really, really like how it looks. It was just very frustrating to get together. But look at how the numbers slide right in there. It technically works, but I hate it. Well, I can't believe I had to put this much effort into this. There's just so much wrong with this. Starting with these, when I haven't trimmed them down, don't fit. They should be thinner. And they could do 2 things with that. They could either make the molds shorter, or they could say, fill it only halfway, fill it 3/4, something, I don't care. But when the design doesn't work, design as given does not work. And it doesn't say anything about not filling the mold in the instructions. And these instructions there were instructions and they were all wrong. So anyways, we'll get back to that. So I trimmed these. I shaved off a bit of the edge of the hole on the back and on the front, on the top there, so that they can fit across that corner. I shouldn't have had to do that, and now I'm going to have to do that with every single one of them. I've only done it with 2 of them. The tiles are good. They slide. They work. They're not too thick, they're not too thin, though to be fair, I did not fill the molds as much as I probably could have. I think they might still fit if you do, though. It's close. Yeah, they've got a little room to wiggle in there. Yeah. Anyways, that one went off the other side of the table. It's okay. We don't need whatever that was. The thing that really got me, though, was these pieces. They have holes, and this piece, it has posts, and the posts are supposed to fit in the holes, except it's literally that much too small. That much too small. The posts, I mean. The posts are narrower than the holes are, so they don't fit. Doesn't matter anyways, because the vast majority of the posts seem to stay in the mold anyways. Oh, here's one. I might be able to get this one out. Oh, look, here we go. Where are my tweezers? Ah, there's the post. There it is. Is it on the piece? No, it's in the mold. How is that useful? So much frustration. But the coaster worked, and the little stone mold worked, and little stones in the stone mold are super cute. But this calendar thing, man, so many problems with this calendar thing. And I know I talked about it all during the voiceover, so I'm not going to go over it again too much. Although I already have. Sophie and Toffee, get your act together. Kits, if you have a full kit to make a single product, you should have enough resin. You didn't supply enough resin. You should have accurate instructions. The instructions were not accurate. Check this out. Do you see that? Look at that. The screw sticks right out the back. And it doesn't even hold. It just keeps on going. It just keeps on going. It's so much wrong. These aren't quite in the right place either. Watch what happens as I put them on and then push them down. Whoop. Oh, did you see that? They bent right towards each other. Can you see that? Yeah, you can see that. Trust me, they bent right towards each other. Oh, do you see that? I don't even understand how that works. Like, what's going on there? So much wrong with this. Anyways, that's it. That's enough griping. That's enough whining. This was not a good kit. It was not good instructions. All the measurements were off. You know, when it said, what, 50 grams for all of the numbers? And I had to mix another batch so I could finish the last two. These were all 25 grams. The yellow ones, that was fine. The numbers, not so much. And they don't even mention these in the instructions anywhere. So how much are you supposed to use for these? Well, I had to guess, and it didn't matter because I used UV resin on these anyways because I didn't want to wait 6 weeks for them to all be cured. It'd be like 6 days, but still. Ridiculous. It's not a good kit. I don't like it. It might be good for somebody. It was not good for me. I didn't like it. I'm sorry. Oh, one more thing. What are you supposed to do with it? Are you supposed to just, like, place it on a counter somewhere? There's no way to hang it. There's no hole. There's no other hook. Are you just supposed to thread in an eye pin, an eye hook in the top and pray it doesn't fall out because it's too thin? And you know what? You know what I'm coming to discover? Sophie and Toffee is worthless. I mean, it's a good price for something that comes from all the way from China, and more often than not, you get some decent resin. The resin is good, and the resin's the most expensive part of the box. I get that. But every time they have a full project, it's crap. It doesn't work. It's very frustrating. I'm sure you understand. So, all that being said, stay safe, and I'll see you next week. Today is that time of the month again. Okay. Hello, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I am Disco Katie, the crappy crafter, with a boy in the bathroom.